Hello everybody, this is Kimmy Moon. I normally write games, like VNR text games, like those dating sim type games. And I decided that I'm going to try my hand at writing actual novels. And yeah, I've written books or stories, but this will kind of be a first attempt, as it were, to make a full-on novel, like complete. So anyway, I found this free software called Wavemaker cards. And although I have tried Scrivener, and I like Scrivener, it's okay. At some point, my computer was not strong enough to continue running Scrivener. And on top of which, Scrivener doesn't run on my Chromebooks. And so I found something that works really well for Chromebook. You can also use it with almost any other writing platform. So if you use Google Docs, if you use Microsoft Word, Zoho, anything, you can use Wavemaker cards with it. And it really is a pretty big program that's lightweight. So it'll run in your browser and, it'll run on almost any device that you're using. So this video is an overview of Wavemaker version 4. If you were using version 3, it has officially been discontinued. And so as far as I know, you might not be able to still access it or update it or anything like that. And you'd probably just be safer importing over to the new system anyway. I'll admit I was a little bit, no, don't let version 3 go. But then when I started using version 4, I like it better, and I'm going to assume it's because this one allows you to use your own writing style no matter what it is. There's a tool in here that would benefit you. So enough about the introductions, as it were. Let's just look at the program itself. So the screen that we're on, this would be your opening screen, as it were. And for the most part, I'll show you how to get to the screen in another video, because when you first load this, you're going to have options as to what you're going to look like, where you're going to find your projects, and then how to get them onto the active files where you're really using the program itself. It's important to note that this is a standalone program within your computer. So given that, anything that you change or delete, you can't recover. Okay, so you're going to have to make sure that you save and save often, because if you upload or download to Google Docs, if you delete a file on your computer, it's gone. It's not coming back. So and when I say upload or download to Google Docs, I mean, like, if you have a file and you've been working in that file and then you try to reconstitute it, like normally what you're supposed to do is when you're done working on something, you then upload it to Google Docs so that when you come back to your computer and turn this on again, you would import it from Google Docs. Now, I'll admit, I did not really do this very well with version 3, and so I never really used that feature very often, and that's only because of me. That has nothing to do with the program. It's because I happen to be one of those people who's borderline scattered all over the place, and I would just forget where my files were. So it just became easier to leave the thing open, because at the time I didn't really even know how to save, but I can tell you how to use it now because I have researched it a little bit and have found that the tools are amazing, and they make productivity a lot faster, in my opinion. So here we go. So anyway, let's start by opening the template. And yes, I did make a template. So I just opened it in what's called My Books. That's the first bar that you are choosing from. And I just made this part that says template instructions. If you go over to you have two options once you open the book. So you have three options. One is to open the book that you're looking at. The other is to make a new book. And of course, the third is to delete the book that you're looking at. Now, this would be filled with books. And again, I'll show you how to do all that in future videos. Right now, we're just walking through the overview of what this program does, okay? So first, when it comes to setting up your actual story or your novel, I would suggest that you use a snowflake. And what you would normally do, I'm going to go over to the snowflake so you can see it. Well, we can pull it up from here, but I'm going to go back out and show it to you so you can find it. With snowflakes, you basically start off with a set of boxes that look like this. And let me go back so I can show you a empty one. All right, so let's say we're gonna call this one test for the video, and then we're gonna hit plus, and that gives you a new one. This is how Snowflake opens, and you can see there's just an empty page. You can put a title if you want to, or you can just start writing in here. I think this is great for your brainstorming session, like when you are still trying to decide what you want your characters to do. You might start off with, you know, Johnny catches a shrimp, and then if you hit this, it's going to open 3 more boxes, which kind of gives you the option of saying, okay, so what do you do with the shrimp? You know, he fed it to Jane. All right, so then you can go down and say, well, no, I don't know if that's a good idea. What if he decides to, he puts it in a blender? Okay, so the point being that you're going to give yourself options until you're able to come up with a story that you're happy with. What generally happens with this is when you hit the next button, this one will disappear, but it will open a whole nother set of cards, right? So now you have the 3 that you made, and for each 3, you can open 3 more. So this allows you to brainstorm pretty much infinitely. You can just keep opening cards, writing ideas on the cards, giving the cards titles so you can find which one you were talking about until you come up with a premise for a story. Now, that's not what the purpose of the snowflake was initially, but I'm looking at it from the standpoint of a person who writes, I guess most people would say like a discovery writer or a pantser would more than likely benefit from this, because it's not like you're getting the whole story or you're trying to outline the entire story, but it would give you a place to start where you can at least organize the thoughts you've already had until you hit the point where, oh my God, I have to write. And most of you who do that, you probably know what I'm talking about. So the snowflake feature, I think, works great for that. So let's go back to the template, and the next step is outlining and organizing. So if you are trying to outline, which, you know, now this would line up more with those who call themselves, I think, plotters. I don't know the lingo. I did not go to school for any of this. I'm just catching the lingo from people online. Okay. So as far as I can tell, people who are plotters are people who will, you know, create outlines, or who possibly need to take the information they just brainstormed and then put it on like a visual. Okay. So the mind map portion, which is here, it gives you pardon me, it gives you the ability to take your thoughts and then be able to add photos to it, or organize them, or connect them together. So there are, you know, strings here that you can hook from one device. I'm clicking on it so you can see it move around here, so you can see where things are connected. You can import your pictures. For each of these boxes, you can also continue to add text until you have a full-size box. So the box does not have to stay small. So, you know, like I just made that one a little bit bigger, and I can just keep writing in it, and I can move it all over the place. Again, I'll show you how this works later. This is just so you can get an overview of what this program does. So this is what your mind map looks like. And for the most part, it is really good for outlining and visualizing. Now, this isn't going to give you a full outline. This is just going to give you kind of an overview because, as you can see, with these things having the capacity to move, if you don't connect it to something else, there's no way to really tell what you meant if you come back to this. So it's better for like organizing all this stuff that you just put in the snowflake, the brain dump section, as it were. So let's go back to the template again. And the next thing is process, or managing your process. Like, you now, at this point, you probably have a good handle on what it is you want to talk about. You have the visualization of what you want it to look like, maybe a little bit about your characters and stuff like that. So managing will bring you to the next part, which is your time management. So if we go up again and go down to the timeline, I'm going to make a new one just to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to call it the novel tracker. And you'll find that there's a box on one side. Again, there's a place for you to put a title, and then there's a place for you to write in what you did. So in my case, I would say that, you know, I spent time in my planning session for, let's say, novel number 1. Then over here, I can then track that I did it on, we'll say, September 2nd, even though that's not the day at all, at 5 p.m. Okay, so if I do it that way, now I have a record that that's the day and time that I worked on this. If I go to my next assignment, I can click the timer and then jot down here that, you know, I spent like from 5 o'clock until 7 o'clock, I was working on chapter 3. Okay, so that will allow you to see how much time you're really spending on a project. It can also help with setting up what your characters are doing. Like if you need a timeline for a particular character's life, then you'd be able to say, well, you know, he was born in 1690 and da 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 da, right? So then you'd be able to track his timeline or her timeline in the timeline feature that's in the program. Okay, so going back to the template again. And by the way, I'm going to list this template somewhere where you can download it if you want it when I'm finished putting it. For the most part, it's kind of done. But each section, if you notice, there is what you're doing, like outlining and organizing the item you're using to do it, and explains how you would do it. And then it gives you a brief overview of how it works. So these are the instructions on using it, okay? So for anyone who's interested, I'll eventually list it somewhere, because I realize that although I can explain these things in a video, it's not going to do you any good once you sit down and you're ready to work if you don't have something in front of you that's kind of like an instruction manual. This isn't exactly an instruction manual, but at least it'll give you the what does this button do kind of scenario. All right, so that would help with your time management. And now you want to get over to where you are writing your actual novel. So you're going to use the grid planner. Now there are 2 types of planners in here, so I want to make it clear that I'm talking about the grid planner right now, as opposed to the planning board. So let's go back over to the home page, and we're going to go down to the grid planners. Now, what the grid planners do, I don't really remember what's on here. Okay. Yeah, with the grid planner, let me go back and show you an empty one. All right, so I'm going to make a new one that's empty. And once again, for the video. And we add the plus sign to open it. It started out as a blank page, and when you click on this, you're going to get these going downward, okay? When you click on the other one, it's going to go across. Now, when you go across, for whatever reason, you wind up getting these large boxes, okay? So, And if you delete this, it's going to reduce the number of boxes. All right, so you want it with one down and one across. Now, what I wound up doing with these, because at first I wasn't quite sure what you would do with this, but we're going to go back to the template. And where are we here? Okay, so back in the template, using the grid planner. The grid planner, I decided to use to track progress. So normally, you know, I make games, okay? I've made or written several games, and I translate games. One of the things that happens with translating games is that you wind up with, you know, 40 or more routes that are similar to chapters. And sometimes you have to then go back and see, well, is this route complete? Has it already, you know, was it already edited? You know, do I need to put in the codes for it to make it run in the program and stuff like that, right? With the grid planner, what you can kind of do is you can kind of track what you're doing by opening a card, because this is about the cards, and you're going to use these cards all over the place. But you can open the cards, and then you can edit the card, and so you can either link a card or you can create a new card. So if we create a new card, you can color code these things. So when you change the color of the card, the entire card changes color. All right, so let's say I leave it purple and I close it. See, the card is now purple at a glance, right? I don't have to like open the card and read it. I can see that's a purple card. So if I use a color coding system, then I can say, oh, purple means that this route or this chapter is in the drafting phase, or, you know, this one is in the revisions phase, whatever kind of color code you want to use. These cards also show up within your document if you put it there. You just click on the little pin in the corner and you can make instant changes. So let's say that this one is Jason found the shrimp, and that's the name of that chapter in your book. Then let's say you're going to use orange to indicate it's a first draft, or you're going to use green to indicate that it's, you know, I don't know, revised or editing, that kind of thing. You can also put tags, which will allow you to find things faster within your document. You can also insert pictures and stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate all that right now, because like I said, the point of this is to give you an overview of the kinds of things that this program will do. Now, this is the grid planner, so it's going to line everything up either in rows or columns based on if you add a row or you add a column. You can also type on here. So let's say that you want to call this, you know, chapter 1, and then you're going to go across chapter 1. For those who are plotters, I think it's called. If you're plotting, then you might say, well, in chapter 1, okay, I'm spitballing here because I don't really know. Again, I don't know the terminology. I'm only remembering what I heard people say. So let's say that this is your act 1. I think it's in act 1, 2, and 3, if I'm right. Now, I don't know if that's within the same chapter or not, so forgive me for that. Anyway, so let's say you're doing act 1, chapter 1, and then this would be your card for that. And then now you're in chapter 2. So you're going to add another column, and then you can call this, I don't know, act 2. So either way, the grid planner is going to allow you to create an entire map or board that you can reference with color coding. You can insert thumbnail style pictures, and you have plenty of space to write things out. And as you can see on the card, it's going to show up. And then if you want to view it in its full size, you would hit the edit. If you want to connect a card to a card, because you can do that too, then you would just click on there and it would add another card. If there's not enough space to add another card, it's going to expand your boxes. But if you want it to not be in chapter 1 anymore, then you can add another column and then go down and make this like chapter 2. Okay. Now, we're going to go back to the template, because I think it's I think the theme is pretty much here, right? Now, once you start creating the document, this is where you're going to get into managing your folders and your documents. Now, there's another cool feature. When you are tracking your folders and documents, you can also use the planning board. The planning board works within your document completely. So it's an auto-generated item, as it were, that kind of outlines all of the different folders and documents that you created when you were working on this. Now, I just stuck a card in here already, and it's under the story premise snowflake. So let's go back to the template and find that chapter, which I think, where's snowflake? Should be the first one, story premise. Now see how the card showed up over here? That allows you to attach the cards where relevant. So let's say you're working on the backstory for your main character. You can put a main character's card over here so you can reference it, you know, relatively quickly. And you can make cards for anything. This is a robust system that you kind of personalize. So if you write more, if your writing style includes a lot of reference to people's hair and color, eye color and height, or, you know, if you're character driven when it comes to how they look, then you can have a card that's going to list everyone's features. Or if you are more of a descriptive, as far as like if you built an entire world and you have to reference, like, you know, that the sky is green in this world and, you know, something like that, you can use cards that would reference that. The point is that they give you a good number of cards and colors and choices, and you can edit them anywhere you run across a card, and you can add cards wherever you need to. So you can customize this according to what you want. And if you're in a document at any point, let's say we're going to go to the organizational document and the mind map. If you come over here, this is how you add a card, and do the same thing I showed you a minute ago, where you're going to create a new card, or you're going to link a card, and then color code it, edit it, however you want to do it. And then once it's secured where you have accepted this card, when you go back to your planning board, then you will see this card in this chapter. So if you need to go in and edit all the cards within a, like, okay, that was where we were with mind maps. You can add and add and add until you run out of space. You know, I don't think it actually runs out of space to add cards. And when navigating within a document itself, you can also go back and you can also go back, and if you notice, like, I'm going to close all these boxes just to give you a quick, all right, see how the folders are closed? If I click on a folder, it's going to change from clear to white. Then I can come over here and scroll down, and it shows me everything in that folder. So this is really a great program that you can utilize any way that you need to. Now, let's go back over to cards for just a second. This is where you would get an overview of all of your cards and where you can manage them. And the cool thing with the cards, beyond the fact that you can edit them and so forth, is that this is also where you can add pictures. So if I want to link an image within the card, I get a thumbnail size of that picture. And at any point that I want to go back and add, like, the scenery. So if I want to, like, let's say I'm using this, oh, well, that one already has a guy on it. I can click that and delete him, though, and I can change that to, let me see if you can, I didn't try this. I'm just putting this up here to see. You can. Okay, so you can fill this up with pictures at the bottom. Cool. Good to know. So these are just some of the things that you can do with Wavemaker, and for it I don't know why I'm tripping over my words tonight, but it is a completely free program. It works across platforms. I would suggest, if you decide to use it, to make sure you hit that Patreon button and send the guy who made this a donation of some sort, just to encourage him to keep making and upgrading. because as far as I know, this is probably the fourth version that he's made. And each version so far has been massively improved from what I've seen. It does take, there is a learning curve, which is why I made this tutorial. So this overview is just to show you some of the features. I didn't get into all the features because within your document, you can highlight, you can color code. You can't change the colors of the folders, but you can set your folders up in such a way that they're still going to become instant reference points. And so I'll explain most of this in the subsequent videos as I break down each part so that you don't have to listen to long videos to find out how to use this. But this video, I just decided to go ahead and make one long video as an overview so that you can see what the program does. And you can go through my playlist and I'll explain each part step by step as I'm writing my first attempt at a novel, like a real novel and not a game. I know how to do games. Now I'm going to do novels. And so I think this program will work great for that. Just like so far, it's worked pretty well for my games too. So nonetheless, I hope this tutorial was helpful. And, check out the playlist. I'll be adding stuff to it on a fairly regular basis as time permits. And once I'm done with this, forming this template, because I do want to add a few more in-depth instructions when it comes to developing your actual document, like the things you can do with the folders and how to open and close your programs and those kinds of things I did not put in the template. Right now, this template it pretty much goes through the steps that I looked up on Google. Okay, so if I'm missing anything, you guys can tell me. I looked it up on Google to see what were the steps to write a novel, and that's where I came up with which thing would be best for what, based on what I would do. That doesn't mean you need to do it. But now that you know what each thing does, I'm sure you'll have an epiphany and an aha moment and say, oh, that would be great for this part of what I do or that part. Maybe your award trackers, like you finish a chapter and you're going to award yourself with, dinner and a movie or something. Then you can track that and say, look, I reached, level bronze and I bought myself a Pokemon card. I don't know, whatever. You can use it the way you want to use it. I think the overview would be helpful. At least I hope it is. And eventually I will set this where you can download it somewhere. And so what I would suggest is that when you get ready to start a new book, 'cause that's what I'll be doing, is take the template, start the book, and keep the template in place. You could change the name on it and everything. In fact, I'll probably show you what I mean in the next video or whatever video I actually start writing the novel in. So anyway, hope it was helpful. Hope you liked it. Don't forget, this is called Wavemaker Cards. This is version 4, and you can pretty much find it and use it in any web browser. Well, hope you have a good evening or day or whatever time it is, and I'll see you in the next one.